In five, four, three, two, one. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Moon Tea Podcast. Today we have Jonathan Gomez, and this is a very special episode for me because I've been slowly getting to know Jonathan over the last year. He currently works as a doorman at the building that I happen to live in. He is a very, very respectable. Has a lot of stuff going for him. Lot of stuff to uncover. Currently, is a student studying criminology. Was in the Marine Corps.
Yes,
in the past, and just has a lot of great stories, a lot of great life experiences, and it's always been a pleasure just chatting with Jonathan. So yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I would say my 8-hour shifts are a lot smoother when I see you and I get to hear about your day, of your exciting adventures, mountain climbing, biking half of Manhattan, or all. You always have a fun, interesting story to tell me.
I'm just trying to keep up with you, because so yeah, it's just a deep insecurity. I'm just like, oh, Hugh's probably doing fun things. I need to do fun things too.
I would say that the military is a lot less fun than people think. I feel like the mountain climbing you do is a lot more exciting than mountain climbing I do. And that's I probably could tell you a story about a mountain climbing event in Afghanistan that would be very, very hilarious.
Wow.
Let's just go right into it. What's the
yeah. Well, can you before we get there, do you have anything else that you want people to know about you and anything like that I may have missed in the intro?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you hit most of it in the nail. After high school, I got accepted to Polytechnic University, now called NYU Poly, which is a pretty decent engineering school here in New York City. I did a year of it, but I had always had a want to join the military as a little boy. I remember like the old school United States Marine Corps commercials that they did on a constant basis. So I was like, it was always like for me a super cool thing. So I told myself that I'd want to join the military prior to finishing my college career, because I felt like if I graduated, I'd be less inclined to go, because I feel like there would be more at risk, you know. So I did it. I did 4 years, did 2 deployments to Afghanistan, and then when I came back, I decided to go back to school. Except I didn't go back to mechanical engineering. I decided to pursue a career in crime, and more in the aspect of helping people stop going to jail. That's been my goal, or will be my goal when I graduate this semester, and try to start. So yep, I do. I'm a concierge right now. I think it's exciting work in the sense that I get to meet so many new people. It's a lot of networking and being social. And I like to think that when need be, I could pull out my social card and be a good talk and give a good chat. I think most tenants have a positive feeling of a positive attitude about me. So I think it's cool. But it's a nice gig, something I do while I go to school, and it pays the bills.
Jonathan is the social chair of the building.
Which would be the complete opposite of what my friends would say. I told you this, Jonathan, not too long ago, but I think my friends would say I'm very antisocial, and I think no one in the building would assume that, with how much I talk and how like welcoming and I am and all that stuff. But it's just part of being professional. And in reality, I do enjoy talking to a lot of you guys. I think we have a great pool of tenants, all respectful, all cool, and I enjoyed seeing you guys on a day-to-day basis. That's not me just trying to toot your horn. That's just being honest.
So nice.
And side like big thing is Jonathan's girlfriend is pregnant and he's about to be a dad, so that's kind of like a side thing as well, like a big, really big thing going on in your life, which I feel like it was worth mentioning.
It was a
Yeah.
it's a massive thing. During, I want to say, the beginning after New Year's, well, we sat down and said, we've been talking about having children for some time, maybe about 2 years now. And this January, we sat down and said, you think that I think mentally and financially I'm ready to have one, and I wanted to see if you were in the same page. She's been pushing me to do it for years, so she was all about it. She was basically just waiting for me to be ready. And financially, I don't think anyone's truly ready because it's such a massive thing. But mentally, I think it's more important to get your mind right into having a child. And I think at this point I was. And I'm super excited. We're 2 months away. It's November 6th is a due day. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Amazing.
But I'm really nervous. It's gonna be a girl. So it's gonna be, it's scary just because it's a girl. I think if it was a boy, I'd be a lot more calm about it. But because it's a girl, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Hopefully she likes sports. Hopefully I've been practicing my ponytails, which I think is gonna be my go-to hairdo.
So cute.
Anything other than that, I'm screwed. To be completely honest.
I love it. Can we hear this story about?
So the story is, it was my first deployment. I deployed in Afghanistan. My first deployment to Afghanistan was February 2009. I think I was 6 months removed from boot camp. So it was right off all my training and stuff. So we did our first deployment in February of 2009. I would say that the initial part, the first month, I was terrified. But after some time, I got acclimated to the environment and the situation and my new life. It got easier. I think we just got kind of used to what we were doing, patrolling and all that stuff. But I would say it's probably a military deployment 6 months long. I would say month 4 we had our first major op. So we were pretty excited about it. It's gonna be a night op. Hold on 1 second. I think my headphones are dying. Hold on.
I love that Jonathan has a streaming setup.
It looks so sick.
Yeah.
Well, you love what?
I love that you have a just a streaming setup with a really cool chair. You're just
so good.
You're just podcast, I'm ready. Let's go.
I've been waiting my whole life for this moment. I've been prepping for it, and now we're here, and I could just hit the ball at the park. So back to the story. It was a night op, so we left around, I want to say 7 p.m. The day before. So it was still kind of sunny. So we wanted to get there. We walked it out. One of the biggest reasons why we walked it out is due to the fact that they tend to put IEDs, which are improvised explosive devices, on the ground, and they pretty much, through the entire 4 months, we had pretty much stepped on them once a month. So we were starting to lose vehicles, and it was getting, and these vehicles are expensive. They weigh about close to 25 tons. They're heavy armored vehicles, and it was just too. They I would assume thought it was being more cost effective to just patrol and not risk losing another car. But we took a walk. It was a long hike. It's about 10 clicks. It was a 10-click hike. We walked it, and then once we got there was this mountain. By the time we got there, it was already dark. We already put our NVGs on, which are night vision goggles. We put them on, and we climbed the mountain with NVGs. And I thought that this is the stupidest idea that anyone's ever had. Because I would say, Jonathan, you could say that rock climbing is kind of difficult, you would say?
I mean, I go my rock climbing doesn't count. I go to a gym with other people who work at a desk and they're just like looking for something to do. Like this is not the same category. Like I'll defer to your expertise.
Imagine doing that with your eyes closed the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Because there was no moon, there was no moonlight. It was just our MVGs, and MVGs, believe it or not, don't work well when there isn't any moonlight, because the moonlight helps us, like, see the MVGs, see through the MVGs. So we're climbing, and it's just every time I take a step, every time I take a grab. Mind you, I also have my weapon and a backpack with me that was supposed to last at least 2-3 days. It was supposed to be a week-long op. It turned out to only be 3 days. We were there. We had the weapon weighs about 18 pounds. And then all your armor and everything is about 50 pounds. And then the backpack is probably another 50 as well. I probably have 100 pounds of gear on me, climbing a mountain and not being able to see anything. So we're halfway through the mountain, and all I hear is like, you've all seen the movies where like rock is like tumbling down. I hear that. I turn around and I see the one of my friends. I just through the MVGs, it was all I see him is fall. Like I see him just like it's kind of like it looked like a Mission Impossible jump off a mountain. And I was like, we lost. At that point, I was like, we lost him. I just thought he died because he had a machine gun with him, so the M23, I believe. And then it was just over. So when I turn around, I see him rolling down, and but by God's grace or the universe saying, you know what, I'm gonna say, just Jesus's hands probably went under him, and he hit a rock. He hit a rock, and it stopped him right there. And because it was a night out, but we were supposed to be really quiet. We were trying to be very quiet, and then I was gonna yell because I was at that point I was just worried about him dying off just the fall. But I tried to I did basically 2 clicks on the radio to say that there was an issue, so that the one in the front of the patrol could turn around and stop the patrol. When we luckily we stopped the patrol, we turned around, he was good. And then from there we just got up. It was probably the most hilarious and scariest thing. When we got back from the whole patrol, we just laughed it up. He just stated about how he was scared shitless. He was like, at this point, he had like basically accepted the fact that he was gonna pass away off this, but luckily it didn't turn out that way. But it was,
and he was okay.
yeah, everything was fine.
You just got up and started.
We got up.
No way.
The backpack pretty much sustained most of the impact, and he was fine. The only thing that happened is his gun hit him in his face and it broke his glasses, and that wasn't, which is a little bit of issue because he couldn't see without his glasses. But we figured out he luckily had another pair in his backpack. We finally got to the top of the mountain. We stood there for about a day, which is exhausting. It's basically just we were doing Overwatch, which is basically getting to the highest point of a terrain and just looking around. That was pretty much what we did. But when we got back, I told him I had saw him on MVGs, and it looked like he was just Superman flying. Like it was something. Well, that's my rock climbing. It's probably the last time I ever went. I think that was the last time I went rock climbing. After that.
Yeah, that sounds like something you don't really forget. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't even imagine like those circumstances and having that much weight and
Yeah, maybe next time I see you, I'll show you a picture of what I look. I lost so much weight because you eat so little, to be honest. They give you you get 3 meals, but you really only get to eat twice because in the middle of the day you might be doing a patrol and whatnot, and on that time during the patrols you might get an MRE, which are a meal ready to eat, which is like this packaged meal that is horrible. It's so horrible that if you read the package and the labeling, it says for detainee use only. So basically, jail members are the only ones who consume MR, are supposed to consume MRAs. So that's something.
Hugh,
There was
did we try an MRE when we went backpacking or
I mean,
camping?
I don't know if it's the same exact one, but I definitely remember you brought this brown pack and it said MR, like I think it was an MRE, but I don't know
they're,
exactly
they're,
what it
they're
was.
definitely brown. So it's like a tannish brown. But yeah, and then they
Well,
have
maybe yeah. Mine was maybe the MRE that you buy at like some like sports shop. So
Like an
I
REI
don't
or
think
something.
yeah.
probably way better quality.
That's wild. So how how long were you in the Marines and what was that transition like back into civilian life?
I was there for a total of 3 years and 6 months. It's supposed to be a 4-year contract, but during my fourth or my final year, we were starting to um, remove members off to Afghanistan. We were already trying to transition off, like the war was almost over, and we were just transitioning back to like safe period time, safe a safe time in our military department. So they were asking individuals if they wanted to cut their contract short. I definitely chose to leave. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll leave earlier, and that's not. The transition was very smooth. I think I had a plan set to go back to school. I think, right at the beginning of the third year of my contract, I decided to uh, go to when I was went to vacation for one of the leaves. I decided to go take that time to sign up for school. I think the semester was maybe a couple months away, so I signed up, went to CUNY. I saw CUNY.com. I applied for John Jay and all that stuff, and so I had already started the process. So when I came back, I finding work wasn't too difficult because I've always been someone with a huge social circle. So having someone help me get a job wasn't difficult. I was actually a porter um, when I got back. My dad had found me a job as a porter, and I did that for the summer until school had started in fall. So it was pretty smooth. I had throughout my military, and hopefully there's no like generals or majors listening to the podcast because I'd probably get in trouble for what I'm about to say. But throughout my military service, every weekend we and a couple guys would go to New York or New Jersey because we just didn't want to spend the weekend in North Carolina. So every weekend we would take an 8-hour trip down to New York City, and then on every Sunday I would take the trip back and go back to working. We're not supposed to because you're always supposed during unless you're on leave, like an extended leave, you're supposed to be at least 50 miles away from base at all times. But thank God we never got called back like early, so that would have been difficult. So with all
Because
that being said, I would see my friends weekly. I would see my family weekly. So transitioning to just permanently being back wasn't too hard.
that's nice that you had like some sort of weekends and you like yeah like still got to be with family and that must have been really nice to have.
I kind of regret it if I'm being honest, uh,
Oh,
due to the fact that it was financially not a good decision. We'd
mm.
probably waste about $250 uh, every weekend on gas, just on gas. And then imagine what I would waste like on like the trips that once I'm there, I'm probably like going out to dinner with friends and stuff like that. So it was very, 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 very costly. But I mean, the experience was nice.
I mean, Hugh just had a weekend in New York City.
So he knows it's like.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's not talk about it. No, just kidding. It was awesome. It was fantastic. New York's got so much to offer. Yeah, I'm kind of curious. So, like, with regards to, well, I'm kind of curious actually a bit more during your time while deployed in Afghanistan. I've never actually talked with someone who actually served and was deployed in Afghanistan. I was kind of curious of what did you think about or your experience of the culture there while on patrol and or living there? Like how does because I'm still learning. I don't know exactly all the details of the whole political background, not to get into the politics of the whole situation, but just kind of curious of what was your perspective or how did you, what was your experience integrating or learning about the culture?
So prior to deploying, you do a month in 29 Palms, California. And during that month, you would learn their language, you would learn their culture, their religion, et cetera, et cetera. But we were taught a little bit of it. They're supposed to be like welcoming individuals who have like a code of conduct on how to behave around people, and it's pretty, for the most part, from what I can remember, it's all like about respect. They try to treat others how they want to be treated because that's what their religion pushes on, treating others kindly and all that stuff. It's not, like, again, not to get into politics. I think they're portrayed very poorly in like news articles and when it comes to politics, when that's not the case. I remember during the attacks of 9/11, the backlash they got, like racist remarks and just like as the people had no idea who they were really, and they just took whatever the news was feeding them as facts. I do think they get a bad rep because in reality they're very respectful. During my time there, I met many civilians there. They were nothing but respectful. Uh, I would say when it comes to like technology and stuff, they're pretty like far away from us. A lot of their houses are built out of mud and stuff like that. They don't have much light um, or any of the amenities that we have here in New York City or the United States. I would say their life is very difficult. No running water, none of that stuff. So it's tough. But that was expected when we got there. They pretty much just try to find and try to find any way to find ends meet, um, and provide for their family to make sure that they're well fed and well kept. Um, but every experience I had there, I had very few, obviously, because it's usually higher ups like captains and stuff that have like talks with high ranking members in the community and stuff. But I'd had conversations with like small kids or young adults and stuff like that. And it was hard to like, since there was a huge language barrier, we didn't have any meaningful conversations. But they're pretty kind. They just ask for water and stuff, just stuff like that. You know. Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. And it's mainly Islam is the main religion, and then there's like Sunni and Shia, and it's mainly Sunni, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah. So
That's
there's
amazing.
a demographic of both aspects, but that's I think something that's higher ups usually like learn more than we did. Pretty much learn they speak Pashto and Dari and Farsi. They speak a lot of languages. Pashto is the one language that I focused on because that's usually what they speak in the Helmand province.
Oh, really? What's like one line that you remember?
Stanum, which is my name, Stanum Jonathan, would be my name is Jonathan.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. And then the other question I was wondering, I'm like curious, is like, how did you decide? You said you wanted to go into the military and to service before going to school. Like, what is it about the military that caused you to say, hey, like, this is what I want to do before I do that? And yeah.
Throughout my life, I've always wanted to do something with purpose. Um, for me, the military was a purpose. I was like, doing something for the greater good, stuff like that. In reality, in retrospect, now it's really not. You're just following orders and doing stuff like that. You think you're doing the right thing and stuff like that, but it's hard to say because we get fed so little information of like the grand plan. So it's hard to say if I really made a huge impact, and I honestly don't think I did in the war in Afghanistan. But I wanted to do something to help people. Um, Even after my military, as I stated earlier, my purpose of studying criminology is to help people, especially young teens. That's usually my like the young adults and young teens. My focus on, helping them avoid a life of crime. So that's just I want to go to so biggest to answer your question, the biggest reason I would join the military is because I wanted to go to bed and fall asleep knowing that I had done something good that day. So that was it.
Gosh, that's amazing.
I respect that a lot, and I mean, makes sense that you're studying what you are studying and looking to get into working with troubled teens and trying to prevent people from, like, young people from getting into trouble. So that sounds like a good segue into your studies. So you're studying criminology. I think you're starting your last semester, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
This is the last semester I have till I graduate.
And I know we've talked about classes, and we've talked about the kind of work that you want to do. But yeah, do you mind just kind of like diving into like what you've been learning in class, and then like what what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned it earlier, but kind of like the motivations behind it and like the impact that you're trying to make.
Yeah, definitely. So throughout my 4 years in John Jay, I've taken a lot of electives, which pretty much range from anything I choose on classes. So I've taken art classes, I've taken writing classes, I've taken math classes. But when it comes to my major, I've taken basically a lot of my classes are a little bit of sociology, a little bit of psychology, and just understanding crime, not just in the present day, but also in the past, um, the early understandings of crime, basically how in the medieval times. I actually took a medieval crime class not too long ago, and it just talked about how the ideas of why many philosophers thought crime was happening. For instance, initial ideas were that the shape of your head determined if you'd be a criminal. There's a certain shaped brain or skull. They saw the skull as the shape of your brain. So if you had a skull with a certain shape, they assumed that your brain was that size as well. And then that would mean that certain areas of your brain were larger than others. And if there was a certain area that was focused on responsibility and stuff like that, if that area was larger, you'd probably be less prone to um to crime. But if it was smaller, then you'd be less responsible, less mature. And they thought that. In reality, in the retrospect, there was a silly idea. A lot of theories back then have been debunked and all that. Modern crime shows that the biggest indicator of crime is one, need, so social survival. I mean survival. Life, like when someone needs food or needs um, something to stay alive, they tend to, if they can't get it because they're not doing well financially, then they find another means to get it, and usually it's crime. Um, Now, the most recent class I took was youth and crime, which is what kind of kind of pushed me to help young adults and teens uh, avoid a life of crime. Because when it comes to them, the biggest indicator of a life of crime is um, three things. One is uh, their family status, like if they live with a good family and if they're well taken care of, and if their parents are good role models, and and they're doing well financially, and they're making sure that the kids learn respect and responsibility and stuff like that. Another aspect is your neighborhood, your community. Um, just because nowadays parents are home not very often. Probably have most families who are like low in a low class or middle class probably have 1 to 2 jobs, and their parents are usually never around. So after school, which is 3 p.m., they'll just be home alone for so long. And during that time, they'll probably spend time around their community with their neighbors and stuff like that. So depending on what happens in the community, it could also lead a child to a life of crime, because peer pressure is such a big thing. Because if they can't find role models in their parents because they're always at work, they'll find it with individuals inside the community. So depending on what they're doing, that may lead them to be responsible or to, find enjoyment in like a life of crime. And the third thing is school, due to the fact that like I said, if their parents aren't home, they're spending a lot of time in in neighborhoods. The area that most kids spend most time in is school. So from 8 all the way to 3, you're probably on your classes. You do that 5 times a week. So a lot of your time as a child is spent in a school environment. And depending on the individuals who are in your social circle, that kind of gauges the kind of person you'll be. So those 3 areas, and those 3 areas are very easy. Obviously, there's other circumstances that might occur that lead to a life of crime, because you can never just put it to just one thing. But those are the 3 areas you should focus on, and they're easiest to tackle as well. Because so what my plan is after school, I want to become a social worker, and probably for a high school. Um, that way, I could have very similar to what I do now as a concierge. I have daily conversations with students, learn about their lives, see how they're doing, and as I do with some of the tenants, give my opinion on things and stuff like that. So I would love to do that with kids who are growing up. As a child, in high school, I had a lot of good teachers, um, who I found as role models, who would look out for us. I would say I'm very, very, very fortunate to have had so many young adults in my high school that just wanted us to do well. It's like you could see from a mile away that these teachers cared. Heck, for my college interview for NYU Poly, my one of my teachers went with me, just as just for support.
That's an
Imagine,
incredible teacher.
right?
Wow.
Just imagine just stopping your classes or stopping whatever you have to, just opening up a huge block of your time, because when we had to travel there, we had to do the interview and come back. That's a huge block of your time just for one child. So that dedication is something that I want to make sure I have with kids as well, and that will tackle like the school aspect that we spoke about earlier. Like if I can make sure that the environment of a school is positive for these children, it'll reduce their odds of finding a life of crime. And I do, as a school social worker, I'll probably have a lot of significant time with their parents, and hopefully that there I can also gauge what life is like back home. As for the neighborhoods, that's the toughest part. It's hard for it's like a lot of kids who go to high school don't go to high schools around their house. For instance, I took an hour train ride to my high school, all the way from Washington Heights all the way to the Lower East Side, which is very, very far away from my community. So I would say it would be very hard for ACE, and I think that's the case for many students. Probably not an hour, probably like they're probably 30 minutes away from home or something. I would say the average student is probably 30 minutes away from their high school. So it's hard for you to have an impact in their community when you're not even in it. So I have a lot of friends who are educators. I even have one of my best friends is an actual social worker, and he just tries to have um, an impact in his own community and like of the school, so that at least that community is positive, and then the kids that live in that community may one day go to that high school and stuff like that. So he always tries to make sure, and he actually grew up around high school too, so it makes it very easy for him to be a part of the community when he grew up there.
Um, I'm curious about what like a career path of a social worker looks like. So it's something that I don't know a whole lot about, and I don't think I'm not like Jonathan. You're probably the person I'm closest to who is kind of like on that career track. So is it the case that it's like high schools and nonprofits who are employers of social work? Like how does that work? Obviously, there's probably social workers that specialize with like homeless people, or like and there are people that are like working with at-risk youth, and then there are social workers who are working with like like the elderly or the disabled.
So there's
But
also some in like, prisons and stuff. I think
Mhm.
anywhere where it impacts society and it involves people, you can include a social worker. It's very similar to like a therapist or something without the title of a doctor or the extensive, school and stuff. You still have to get a master's, and sometimes you also even go for more degrees. But it's basically just impacting society as much as you can and helping others. Um, I had the I had the chance to follow my friend around during his thing, and obviously he works in a school environment, and so my view of a social worker is pretty much just in that area. That's the only thing I can really tell about, but I'm sure they work in other avenues as well. But it's just helping individuals out, guide them, helping individuals take the right path and think about the decisions. Because just like people tell you that when you go to the therapist, all you do is like talk because they just listen, because they want you to make up your own mind. You want you to come, because it's a lot easier for a human being to accept a decision when it comes to them. If I tell you to do something, it's going to be very difficult, very different than when you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this. When you come to your own realization of something you want to do, it's easier to accept. So I think social workers and therapists just do exactly that. They like, it's like when you're bowling. When you're bowling, you put the what's it, those the barriers up.
Yeah.
I feel like that
I,
has a
I have no idea what they're called. The bouncing barriers on the side.
the barrier. When you're really bad at bowling, you
The
ask
bouncy majiggies.
you ask them to put the walls up, so it guarantees that you hit some pins. I would say social work is that right there. You're basically the barrier.
I
Like,
love that.
you want to make sure that they hit some pins. Sometimes they hit them all, and you're great. You did a great job, and sometimes they don't. But that's what bowling has two tries, so you still have you'll still have another go at those pins. So I would say that's what social workers are. They just guide individuals to a right path, but you're the one that throws the ball, and that's it.
Hmm.
I think you're going to be an incredible father. Just want to throw that out there.
Is this a podcast or a crying fest? Because you say I'm gonna start tearing. You say something like that. I think I'm gonna do a great job. I'm nervous, but I just want what's best for my child. I hope I want to build an environment where she's comfortable to be who she wants to be, do what she wants to do, and my job as a father is just to facilitate and just make sure that I'm there to hear her out, not force my opinions on her, even though I may be a lot older and wiser than her. I've always been the person where I want people to make their own mistakes. Just like I said earlier, how people should come to their own decisions. Some people need to experience uh, a problem to be able to solve it better. If I handhold my child through our entire life, the moment I'm not there, how do I expect her to like resolve her own issues? You know, I want to make sure I raise someone who is strong, resilient, and who can be responsible and just make her own decisions, even if they're the wrong ones. But if you can get up, fix them, and take another path, then that's all I want. I think we're going to be great parents. I tell Diana this all the time. Diana is very similar to me. I think we have very similar mindsets. We're two individuals with huge hearts, who try to be nothing respectful and nice to other individuals. And I hope to God that that's how my daughter is. Someone who's nice, caring, who sees something wrong and tries to help. That's what I hope.
I'm thanks for sharing, by the way. I am curious how you feel about raising a daughter potentially in New York City or around New York City. I know you've mentioned in the past that there's obviously this like grind and hustle to just to like of everyone who lives in the city, and obviously it can be very tiring to be a part of it. Um, is that something that you would want your daughter to experience growing up, or yeah, like would you want your kids to like be part of the New York City school system. Like, I know it can be very competitive. It's like at every step you're kind of like ranked, and then you go to like certain high schools, and that's not what Hugh and I experienced growing up. And yeah, like some people that I meet are products of that environment, and I've heard a lot of mixed reviews from people's experiences. But curious what you think.
Initially, I was looking, and I've always been, I think I've had many talks with you about leaving New York City. That's something I'm still interested in doing. For instance, I spent a month in Spain, Madrid, uh, not too long ago, and I just, how calm the life was enticing, was very exciting, drew me in. And that's kind of like, for me, like when I think of like having a family, I thinking about, having a house with a backyard and a front yard and knowing your neighbors and all that stuff. And I try to do that here. Like I know all my neighbors, I have relationships with them, but it's like, as you stated earlier, it's a grind here. Like I feel like you said, like I said earlier, most parents, most individuals in New York City have multiple jobs. They probably have a normal 9 to 5, and then maybe they do Uber afterwards or Uber Eats. They'll find a nice side hustle to do, because living here is exhausting. You work 40 hours a week just for that entire income to go to rent, bills, all that stuff. And then if you do have a great job who that pays you substantial, is most of the times you're working 12 hours. So you're not even working normal 9 to 5. You're either salary, and you're working from 8 a.m. when you wake up, or probably earlier, all the way to 9. I've told you, I've seen tenants who come in on the phone with a client or an employee, and just like, work does not end here. So it's like, is that really a life? Is that a life that I want for myself? No. I want to work a normal 9 to 5, where I'm not struggling to pay my bills and pay my stuff. I'd say bit of support for my family, but at the same time have a large amount of family time. Be there for my daughter. Like, how are you a parent when you're not even around? Like, how am I supposed to be a good father if I'm not available to my daughter? So I would love a job where it pays well, and I just think that's difficult here in New York, just because of the cost of living. Here is everything's expensive. Rent here is probably like $2,000 or $3,000 minimum, and then from there, if the nicer areas, it'll skyrocket to 5 or 6 thousand. And here in New York City, who makes that much? Not very few. Very few people make 6,000 a month, and that would just be rent. We're not even talking about electricity, about water. The electricity here is about $200 to $300. Where when I lived in North Carolina, I had a 2 bedroom house with a huge backyard and a nice front yard for $750. Like, that's so different than New York.
No way.
So different. And
What?
obviously, it wasn't like the greatest area in North Carolina. It was a military town, so it's not very enticing. But even if you go up to Raleigh or Charlotte, like, you'll find decent homes for $1,000 a month, and that at least is sustainable. Than being, I've spoken to you, and I've talking to many individuals. New York has to change the way they live. Cost of living is too high. The the work hours are just egregious. I before this, I worked for a tech company, and I've told you this for Instacart, and I'd wake up at 7, and I'd be at work all the way to 12, answering emails, taking phone calls, et cetera, et cetera. And on the weekends, managing multiple stores, I did not feel like I was on a break. I didn't feel like I have off days, because I was either worried about how the stores are doing, or I was taking a phone call from a manager for a fairway market, or another thing, another partner grocery store. So it's like, when did I get a break? When can I just be me? When can I relax? And I felt like during those 5 years there, the first 3 years as a shift lead was not too difficult. I'd manage one store. That was my thing. I'd maybe answer a phone call from one of my employees, but that was rare. But as an area manager managing multiple stores, the stress was substantial. And it wasn't just me. My boss was stressed, and my coworker was stressed as well. So imagine three individuals who are highly stressed, how does that help us, one, do productive work when we're either feeling like we're getting pushed to for profits and stuff like that. I don't think I'm very I'm sure there's jobs out there in New York City that are great, that are less, less strenuous. But right now, I think it's common for individuals in many work fields to be pushed to their limits here in New York City. And I have spoken to many tenants who feel the same way, and many of my friends are the same way. I've had my situation isn't an anomaly; it happens constantly, and I wish and I think my job as social work will be very close to that, but at least it's beneficial, at least I know I'm helping someone. So at least it's something you could be proud of, like sitting down and go to bed and say, you know what, I helped this kid's life. I'm sure I'll get calls at 7 p.m. At 7 p.m. or 10 p.m. by a kid having an issue. And you know what? I'll get up because I probably have a strong relationship with the individual and I care for his or her well-being. So I'll get up and it's a lot easier to do that. But when you're just working a 9 to 5 or 9 to 12, like I said earlier, just to like meet just to be financially stable and to be able to pay bills, that's not that exciting. There's no motivation behind that. So yeah. So I am nervous, but I think we will be for the time being. I think it's too difficult to move now to a different country or a different state and just relocate, get a new job. So I think it's too much. I'm asking my family to do way too much to try to relocate now when we're about to greet a baby girl to the world. I think we'll stay where we're at, where we're a little bit comfortable, and just try to reduce like the risks. And then when I think she's able, she's a little more a little older, maybe 5 or 6 or 7, maybe then I'll relocate. I don't want to relocate just yet.
And you're relocating to Spain, right? Like Madrid.
I've been trying to convince Diana. She's still anti it, but she was the other day. She was telling me like, why not just move? Sorry, why not just move somewhere where it's away? Because she's only been here for maybe 4 years. She was born in Colombia, so New York is very new to her. So because it's new, it's exciting. New York is exciting. I mean, it's still a great. I don't want to just like bring it down to. I don't want to bring New York's picture down to the ground. It's still a great place. I mean, you two, John comes from LA, and Hugh, you come from
Arizona. Yeah.
So it's like you come here and it's exciting. I mean, I'm sure for Jonathan it's not that big, not drastic change because I'm sure LA is just as crazy and hectic as New York City. But it's exciting. There's so much to do. There's so much to do here. So much to visit. It's when you think of the United States, you think of New York. At least as an immigrant, I think a lot of coming from an immigrant family. When you think about the United States, you think about New York City, and it's exciting stuff. But living here is also it's not what I know a lot of individuals who migrated here and have said, yeah, this is not what I thought it was because it's not like I remember, back in the day, there's a line about how New York is paved, the streets are paved with gold. They think it's just like money is just, on the floor for you to pick up. It's not, it's you coming here, it's you busting your ass because everyone else is busting their ass. If you don't come with that mindset, you're gonna fail.
Imagine thinking the streets are paved with gold and you actually arrive and you see that it's trash and rats and cockroaches.
and pigeon poop everywhere. Like,
like oh man.
Oh God. And then yeah, it's tough. And in reality, you come here and like you just said, it's the rats, it's the pigeon poop. There's a lot of homeless individuals here in New York City. And that's a lot of it. It's hard to say why they're homeless, but it's because it's difficult to be here. It's difficult to get a job. There's also many addictions here, like and stuff like that. So they have their own reasons, but they're an image. They're a symbol that says like it's not easy to live here. Like you're gonna struggle if you don't like do the bare minimum. So and that's the same everywhere. I don't wanna like again I don't want to shit on New York City because like if I go to Arizona and I don't do anything or if I just half-ass everything, I'm probably gonna struggle. But I can only speak of where I've been, and I've been here in New York City for like the last I lived in New York for 28 years. I'm 32. I got the chance to live somewhere else for some time, and it was different. It was very different. But here, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah,
So
you've summarized the two sides pretty well, which is the cost of living is very high, and yeah, there are, it's, it's a very like hustle and bustle culture, and like a lot of people are like just like trying to get by and like just trying to like just like make it to the next month, or like and then on the other hand, uh there's like so much of anything that you want to do just because of the density and just because of the way that the city was designed. And so yeah, there are those two sides. And yeah, I one thing I find really interesting is I think in New York City, I am I am constantly reminded about the scope of income inequality,
mhm.
because there will literally be a homeless person, and then I look up and it's like a penthouse in Tribeca, like someone's helicopter pad. And it's like it's the same thing, like
Yeah,
same street, but it's like very interesting to see that. And uh, that's not unique to the city, but that is something that I am mindful of in the city.
yeah,
um
yeah. Uh, I think I think you're right in that aspect. It's hard, and and that kind of sums up New York, like you said. You know, so it's tough. But the good thing about New York, it's extremely diverse. You have different races, different cultures, different religions, different ideologies. It's the one positive thing I have to say about New York is how accepting it is of who you are. You know, no one cares what color your skin is here. No one, and I won't say no one, but the majority of individuals here don't care what the color of your skin is, what's your sexual preference, and what's your religion, all that stuff. No one cares because we're so diverse. We have a club or an area for everyone and anyone. You know, so I love that about New York. Like, I'm sure being gay somewhere else is difficult, but here in New York, it's extremely accepting. Or being, I'm sure there's still states who have an issue with African Americans and stuff like that. So, but here in New York, it's no one cares. No one cares. That's the one thing I love about New York is how they call it the melting pot. It's just so many cultures, so many everything here. I think that's amazing.
yeah, it's like whatever food, whatever community. If you're like, I want to join a bike club, but for people who are this good but not that good, like there's a
Mhm.
bike club for that. And then
I'm
yeah, I had
the not good club. I'm the not good club. I need to find the not good biking club. That's where I go.
hey, whatever, we all have our like our unique workouts. um cool. Well, we ask all our guests this, but do you have any words of, oh, do you have anything that you want to like give a shout out to? um
Mm, I want to give a shout out to individuals who have a job that help others in any way or form. I think what you guys do, if you do it with love, you do it with care, and you do it with respect, you're doing an amazing job. An amazing job. And I want to shout you guys out. I hope that if you're listening to this and you hear this and you're having a rough day at work, just know that you made a change and that's something to be proud about.
Awesome. And uh do you have any words of wisdom, any parting thoughts to our 10 or 11 listeners?
I think if you're doing something you love, you can't be doing anything wrong. Follow your heart. No matter what you want to do, as long as you want to do it, do it. You're gonna don't care about the opinions of others or none of that. As long as you want to do it, you do it. And if you're gonna fail, fail. Just make sure you get. If it's something you truly want, you're gonna get up. And you're gonna continue thriving for your goal. And that's that. That's my wisdom for our 11 guys. I hope that makes a change for you.
And that's amazing. Jonathan, Mr. Jonathan Gomez, you're incredible. And thank you so much for coming on, dude.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you, Hughes, yesterday. No, before yesterday. Well, this whole week. It was nice meeting you. It's a pleasure to put a face to the name. I wish I could have gone, obviously, because the situations I was going through this week, I couldn't go out and hang out with you. I wish I would have, because who knows the next time you hear, I hope Jonathan, I think he's going to be moving soon, but if you guys are ever in New York again, reach out. I'll tell my baby girl to chill out for a day, and I'll go hang out with you guys.
I love it, dude. Right back at you. I mean, if you're ever coming out to this middle of nowhere Southwest place called Arizona or whatever it's called, let me know. Definitely.
Arizona's getting very popular, honestly. I think you guys are up and coming, honestly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Phoenix and Austin, those are two popping places these days. Oh my goodness. Wow. To the man himself, thank you again. To anybody else tuning in for the first time, thank you. This is the Moon Tea Podcast. This is a podcast where we aim to talk about craft, community, building meaningful careers. And let's be honest, Senor Jonathan is literally the culmination of all three of those. So again, thank you so much for the time, man.
Anytime. Thank you, guys.
Cool. So if anybody wants to reach out, hop on the show, has an interesting story to share or interesting perspective, you can always reach out, hop on, email us at moonteapodcast@gmail.com. With that, hopefully today was amazingly interesting. I mean, I don't know if that's really like a sentence, amazingly interesting, but hey, there we go. Anyways, take it easy, stay classy, stay kind, and keep on doing kind things and helping others, just like Jonathan. With that, peace.
Peace.